This is Scott Drake. Speaking of justice, and you're watching the Legal Broadcast Network, a commuter plane dropped out of the sky without warning and nosedived into a suburban Buffalo home in a fiery crash. It killed 49 passengers aboard and one person on the ground, and it was the nation's first deadly crash of a commercial airliner in 2.5 years. My guest is aviation attorney Charles Brewer in Phoenix, Arizona. Hi, Charles.
Hi, Scott. How are you?
I'm fine. Now, this is the second crash we've had recently with very different results here. This aircraft is a 74-passenger Bombardier Dash 8. What can you tell us about that aircraft and what its performance record is?
Well, its performance record is fine. It's had some landing gear problems, but that wasn't applicable here. It's a high-wing turboprop. It's not a jet. It's a turboprop. And which means it's a jet engine running 6 propellers, and it has 2 jet engines with 6 propellers on each engine. The propellers are heated. Some hot air is diverted to the engines, but on the wings and the stabilizer, the only thing they have to break up ice is not hot air like jets have, but is little pneumatic fingers under a rubber coating. And they are on a timer, and they vibrate back and forth on this timer. Well, I don't know what the time is on this aircraft, but they purportedly break up the ice. Well, the trouble is if ice gets over top of the fingers, or they don't start till too late, or if the ice gets pushed up, then the problem is that the ice defers the airflow over the wing, and you don't have a laminar flow wing, and you fall out of the sky and you stall, and that's what transpired here.
And that's even with both engines working properly. The aircraft just falls right out of the sky.
If there's not a proper airflow over those wings, and of course you're not on full power because you're on somewhere, and I don't know the specs on this airplane, somewhere between 75 and 80% of your power, because the other 20 or 25% has to be diverted to the heating elements and the pneumatic wing elements.
There were other aircraft in the area with the ATC communications complaining of ice. This plane...
That's frequent.
This plane came out of the sky so quickly. Would the pilots have had any indication that they were losing their aerodynamic capability on the wing? Or would
the plane stalled, and when this plane stalled, the stick shaker goes, your stick vibrates terribly, and when the plane stalls, you fall out of the sky, and you have to recover. Now, obviously, because of the loud noise the witnesses heard, he threw, or she threw, whoever was flying the aircraft, the props all the way up and the throttles all the way up, but it was too late to recover the plane because it had already stalled on its wing, and it was wing down, nose down, attitude straight down.
Witnesses did say that they heard the engines sputtering. Is that the indication of a stall as well?
Engine sputtering could and could not be. I tend to doubt it. I think, quite frankly, the engine sputtering was really the revving of the props, which would make a lot more noise than the throttles being pushed all the way forward.
Well, in the wake of this crash, what should the families of loved ones and friends, relatives, what are they needing to prepare themselves for now?
Well, unfortunately, they're going to be bombarded by lawyers and people like that, and or people purporting to be friends of lawyers or something. So as a consequence, of course, it's a lifelong tragedy that you never forget, and it's just as if it was 9/11 or anything else. It's a real tragedy in their lives, and I feel for these people because I've lost a lot of friends who were pilots, and as a consequence, I represent a lot of people that have had loved ones on airliners or on airplanes that have been killed. So it's a lifelong tragedy.
And you talk about the family being inundated by people. How would they go about selecting somebody who would be suitable for them?
Well, what they need, number one, is a seasoned trial lawyer, somebody that's tried a lot of cases that knows his way around the courtroom. Number two, they need somebody that knows airplanes as well as the courtroom. And as a consequence, you just can't take a normal trial lawyer and just throw him in on an airplane crash. He has to have some knowledge of what he's looking at. He has to get experts. He can't testify, but knowing and being able to understand what transpired makes it a lot easier.
And you've had cases like this. What are some of the challenges of handling a case like this?
Well, I was on the 255 up in Detroit where 156 people were killed. The judge appointed myself and 4 other attorneys, and we did all the discovery and all the work, the investigation and everything on behalf of the 156 people, even though we didn't represent all of them. Other attorneys did, but we did the liability portion. And you have to prove liability before you get damages. Well, obviously something happened because the passengers are completely innocent here.
Mm-hmm. You know, and in this case, too, it's simply icing of a wing, which seems to be something that airlines, plane manufacturers should have a pretty good handle on by now.
Well, the plane is a very good plane. It's a former de Havilland bought by Bombardier in Canada in 1992. They've had no icing problems with this plane. They've only had a few landing gear problems, which they've ameliorated. As a consequence, the pilots have to be alert as to what's transpiring. Like I fly a high-performance jet. We have wing lights so that if we suspect ice or coming near ice, we put on our lights and look out on the wings to see what we can see. You can see ice. You can see it forming. It's quite readily rime ice, especially, which this was. Rime ice is very, discernible.
My guest is Charles Brewer. He is a renowned aviation attorney here in the Phoenix area. Charles, I appreciate your time and your expertise in this area.
Well, I certainly appreciate you calling me.
And this is Scott Drake. You're watching the Legal Broadcast Network. This is Scott Drake, and we know that as an attorney, you're very busy. That's why we have more content just like this at your fingertips, conveniently located at legalbroadcastnetwork.com. Thanks for watching.